Fine. So let's start with the second part. Fine. Over here, I just wrote a code and explained you. Right, with the web element interface, you can type in the type inside the text field username. Fine. Similarly, on the Gmail page, if you have to click on the next button, fine. This is the next button. Right. If you have to click on it, then the ID of this button is next, and the name is sign in. Let's identify it by the name. Okay, so I'll write the code driver dot find element by the name sign in. Okay, this will return you a web element, say button equals to this, and button dot on the web element you will find the click function as well. So if you run this code, this will open up Mozilla and enter something in the email ID field and click on the button. Okay, right, you see that? Fine. Now you cannot just write 2 lines again. Look, for one element I am writing 2 lines. In the first line I am finding the element, and on the second line I am clicking on the object. Okay, so in the first line I find the object, in the second line I click on it. Fine. Or I use it, basically not click it but use it. Fine. So you can write everything in one go as well. Okay, there's no need to write everything over here like this. You can write simply driver.find element by this ID. Okay, this will represent the web element, and on that web element send keys your username, and again driver.find element by the name, and on that click. Okay, so when this code executes, the execution takes place from the left hand side to the right hand side. Okay, so first driver.find element is calculated, and then send keys is fired on it. Okay, so at runtime this would be the web element, and on the web element the action would be fired. Alright, fine. So suppose if I move my mouse over send keys, I will also get the documentation. Fine. Now at times people ask a question that what if there are 2 elements with the same ID email? Fine. What if there are 2 elements with the same ID email? Look, the thing is, if you look at the documentation carefully, hold on, or just a minute. If you look at the documentation of send keys function says that, okay, just a minute, WebDriver, okay. If you look at find element function, okay, find element function says that finds the first web element using the given method, the first. If there are 2 elements on the page with the same name email, say one is out here and one is out here, okay, then when Selenium extracts the objects from the page, okay, it extracts from the top left side to the bottom right. It moves like this. Okay, so if there are 2 elements with the same ID or anything, it will use the first one, it will use this one, it will not use this one will not be used. Okay, what if you want to use the second one? We will talk about that. Okay, but please understand driver.find element will find the first element with the given criteria. Alright, fine. Now moving ahead, right, moving ahead, look, every element cannot have an ID or a name. For example, I want to read the text on the top, one account, all of Google. Okay, this is the text, one account, all of Google. If I want to read this text, Then this has got no ID, no name. It's a standalone H1 tag. Okay, right. So how do we identify it? We identify these things with the concepts of XPaths or CSS selectors. Okay, so out here as XPath or CSS selector will be used to identify the elements. So when you write over here by dot, you get the option XPath or CSS selector. Fine. So what are these? Let's discuss XPath. Fine. Let's discuss XPath. Look, I'm not talking about identification of objects in Chrome or IE right now. I'll come over to those browsers. Right. Just be with me. Fine. Now, XPath, it is something which is like the address. Right. For example, you have an address. You stay in, say, house number XYZ in city ABC, right? You have an address. Similarly, every element on the page has an address. Okay, that address you can say it's the XPath of that element. Okay, XPaths are of two types. Complete, or it's also known as absolute XPath, or you have partial XPath. Okay, XPaths are of two types, complete or absolute, or the second one is partial XPath. Okay, so what do you mean by complete or absolute XPath? Right, if you look at the web page over here, this is the H1 tag. Fine, hold on. This H1 tag, you can start your complete XPath from the HTML tag, right? What I am going to do is that I am going to write like this. Hold on. The first tag on the page is HTML tag. Inside the HTML tag, everything resides. Okay, so the first tag is HTML. Fine. Inside the HTML tag, you have got head tag and body tag. Okay. Inside the head tag, you have got many other tags. Alright. You are not interested in the head tag, you are interested in the body tag, because the H1 tag out here resides inside the body tag. Fine. So what you will do is that inside the HTML tag, there is a body tag, and inside the body tag, you have got various other tags. I want to go inside this division tag. Okay, you expand this division tag, you want to go inside this division tag, so you will write /div. Now inside this division tag, there are three parallel division tags. These three tags are parallel to each other. Fine. I want to go inside the second division tag because H1 is inside the second one. Right. So I'll write over here /div2. Okay. And inside the second division tag, there is another division, which is this one. Okay, these are two parallel divisions inside the second. This is the second division tag. Okay, inside it you have again two parallel divisions. I want to go inside the first one, and inside the first one there is H1 tag. So I'll write over here div1/H1. So this would be the complete XPath. Now it is not mandatory to write div1 over here. If I don't write this, by default it is 1. But if I want to go inside the second or third, then I will have to explicitly mention over here. Okay, if you don't mention, by default it is 1. So this is my complete XPath. It starts from the root of the document and it moves to the element of your interest. Fine. If I take this XPath and write it in the code over here, that is driver.find element by the X path. Fine, I'll give the X path dot get text. So this will give you the text of the element. Fine, you can write the text and you can print the text. So when you run this code, it reaches out here and see, it prints the text. Okay, right. Now you don't have to actually calculate the complete XPath yourself. Okay, you have to, there are tools available. Fine, just in Mozilla, I am telling you, in Mozilla there is an add-on known as FirePath. Okay, FirePath add-on is an add-on which is on the top of Firebug. Fine, so you need to just go to Google, open up Firefox and just type in Google FirePath Firefox. Okay, you'll get the first link. Go here. Fine, and click on the button add to Firefox over here. This plugin would be added to Firefox. Right, your Firefox will restart. Fine, and after restarting you will see the FirePath option out here. Okay, select that option. Fine, and in the drop down select generate absolute XPath. Please select this option, generate absolute XPath. Absolute XPath is also known as the complete XPath, which we just studied. Now if you investigate your page and you go anywhere, you will get the complete XPath of the element being displayed by FirePath. So you don't have to calculate it manually. Fine, FirePath is available for your help. So you will get all the complete XPaths. But complete XPaths, they are good. They are too accurate. Okay, at times I have seen situations wherein nothing is working, the object is not getting identified, but complete XPath, when you use it, it identifies it very easily. Okay, right. But the problem is, it starts from the root of the document. If something is added in between tomorrow, in between over here in the highlighted section, suppose just after the body tag, the developer adds something else and the structure of the page changes a little bit, all your complete XPaths will go for a toss. So you will have to write the code again, and you will, rather not write the code, you'll have to calculate your XPaths again and update them in the code. Okay, and it will spoil the time. Okay, so the main objective is to automate, but the main objective is also to automate in such a manner that our script is stable enough. Okay, script can resist small changes in the application. Okay, anyhow, if the complete application changes, okay, if they completely change the UI and all that stuff, then you cannot help, right? But if something minor, if some minor change is done on the page, right, it should not impact your code. Okay, right. So that is why we refrain from using complete XPath. Right, when objects are not getting recognized and it is becoming difficult, the last resort is complete XPaths. What we do is that we use partial XPaths. Okay, right. Now what is partial XPath? Well, a partial XPath will always start with double slash. Okay, tag name. Okay, and it will have attribute something like this. It will look something. Hold on, I'll tell you. Let me go to Gmail page, and in FirePath I will uncheck the option generate absolute XPath. And now if I look at my email field, the XPath which I get, ignore the dot in the beginning, don't take the dot. Okay, this is the XPath which I get. Double slash star. Double slash, a partial XPath will always start with double slash. Okay, double slash star. The highlighted portion double slash star means that all the elements on the page. Okay, out of all the elements on the page, get me the element whose ID is email. So you need to write @ID. This is the syntax. Okay, or to be more specific, you can specify the tag name. Out of all the input tags on the page, get me the input tag whose ID is email. So this can be a partial XPath. Okay, if the email ID field moves on the page from the left hand side to the right hand side, it will not impact this XPath because the ID will remain the same, right? But yes, if you talk about a scenario like this, wherein I take the XPath of this button, add to Firefox. I take the partial XPath for the button, add to Firefox. I get this kind of an XPath. Okay, it's a link. Now what Firebug does is that, fine, Firebug calculates like this. This is the anchor tag A, which you can map over here. This anchor tag has got no ID. So Firebug moves one location above and sees this para tag. This para tag has also got no ID. So this para tag is out here. Then it moves one tag above into this div tag. This div tag also has no ID, so this div comes over here. Then it moves above this div tag, this div comes over here. So it keeps on moving up, right, till the time it finds an element with the ID add-on. This is the division. It finds this division with ID add-on. Fine. So it starts making the XPath from this division. That this is the division, under that there is another division, then another division, then another division, then the para tag and the anchor tag. Are you understanding my point, how this is made? Is there anyone who is not understanding? Right, it's everything is dependent on the page source. Are you guys able to hear me? Because previously my net was giving issues. Hello? Okay. No. Can you please repeat the last partial XPath once? Okay. Okay, I'll repeat the last part. Look, the partial XPath over here starts with this link A anchor tag. Okay, right. So Firebug will keep on traversing above the tags till the time it finds an tag with an ID. Over here it finds this division has got an ID. So it makes the XPath from this particular division. It traverses down this particular division to this anchor tag and makes this XPath. Okay, right. Although if something changes out here in between as well, things are supposed to change, XPath will change. But it is, you know, if I take the complete XPath of this element, fine. In comparison to the partial XPath, if I take the complete XPath of this button, then at least using partial XPath is far more better than using the complete XPath for this element. Okay, because obviously you also know that the bigger XPath will change, will have the tendency to change if something changes in the application. The tendency would be more than the partial one, right? Okay, can we give unique ID to LEA? And look, that's the thing, testers cannot give an ID. The developers, they give the ID. Okay, the developers, they give the ID, we don't give the IDs. So that's, you can ask the developer. So that's why, you know, when the projects are being built, Okay, they always say that give IDs to your elements and all that stuff. Okay, so now if I have to type in the email ID field, I can also use the XPath. I can write driver.find element by the XPath of the email field dot send keys. Hello. So this will work, and this will also work on Chrome. Instead of Mozilla, if I put up Chrome over here, and if I run this code, this will also run on Chrome. Okay, right. If you have to investigate any element on the browser, fine. For example, I have to investigate the next button on Chrome browser. Now let's talk about Chrome.
I have a quick question, Ashish.
Yeah.
So how do you find the XPaths in Chrome browser? I saw using the fire path, we can find the XPaths there.
That's what I'm coming to right now. Okay. Look, you can find what I do primarily. I find the XPaths and all in Mozilla and use them in other browsers because in Mozilla it is the easiest. In Chrome, you can even investigate the element. There is something known as Chrome Inspector. Okay. If you right click on any element, for example, I right click on the next button, I'll get the option inspect element. Right. You select the inspect element option, that element would be highlighted in the page source. There is no add-on or something, it is inbuilt. And if I right click on this element, I get the option copy XPath. Okay, so this gives me an XPath automatically. Chrome will give you the XPath like this. Only thing is that instead of double quotes, you have to put the single quote. That's it. Okay, in I there is no way, you have to go into the page source yourself. Alright, but in I you can investigate the page source. Okay, in I there is something known as I developer tools option. Hold on. In I, if you hit F12, just a minute, right, you will have this window coming up. This is known as the I developer window. Okay, developer tools. There will be an arrow over here. You can click on that arrow, move the mouse over the elements, and it will help you investigate the elements. Right, but XPath you cannot get. You'll have to calculate it. So generally, I use it on Mozilla because the page source remains the same, right? Do it on Mozilla and execute it on other browsers. Very rarely I have seen a website wherein the elements differ on different browsers, and that was also long back. Okay, so it doesn't matter which browser you are using. Okay, primarily you use Firefox to identify and run it on the other browsers. Okay, you can also use Chrome. I just showed Chrome. You can right click on the element and investigate. In I also you can simply investigate the page. Okay, right. So this is how you can use XPaths. Okay, there are two types of XPaths which I talked about: complete XPaths and partial XPaths. Okay, fine. Now, one more thing. If I am opening Mozilla, if I am running my script on Mozilla, just a minute, you will see that Firefox will open. Fine. It will go to Gmail, right? But this Firefox will be very different. You see, this Firefox, first of all, has got no fire path or firebug. Firebug is not there in this Firefox. If I type Control H, it's got no history, only Gmail. It will not have the bookmarks which you have in your regular Firefox. This Firefox is like a freshly installed Firefox in your machine. The Firefox which is being opened by Selenium script is not having any add-on, any bookmark. Okay, it's different from the regular Firefox on your machine. Okay. Now at times what happens is that this browser in which the script is running, the Firefox browser script is running, you want to investigate the elements in this particular Firefox browser. So there is no Firebug available and it becomes tough. You cannot go to the page source again and again. Okay. So how do I manage this situation? Look, first of all, we need to understand why this happens. This happens because of the concept of profiling in Firefox. Do you guys know the concept of Firefox profiling? Do you guys know the concept of Firefox profiling? Anybody who's knowing it? Okay, right. Look, Firefox profiling is something like, suppose you are using Firefox on your machine, but you want that, say, if your brother is accessing your machine, fine, he should not be able to access um, your Firefox. Okay, he should see his set of settings inside Firefox when he tries to access Firefox. He should not be exposed to your bookmarks and your history. Okay, so which means that Firefox browser should open differently for you and differently for your brother. Okay, this can be achieved with the help of concept of Firefox profiling. Okay, all you need to do is that, first of all, the first step is close the Firefox window from file exit. Don't close it from this cross mark on the top right. Close the Firefox from file exit. Okay, right. So Firefox will close and you give this command firefox.exe -p profile manager. Okay, right. You give this command, you'll get a window like this. Okay, I'll just give this command to everyone on the chat. Fine. Hold on, just a minute. In your PC, you will see default profile coming up. Now you can also create your own profile. I'll create a profile known as, say, Selenium _ profile. Finish. And I'll launch this profile. So Firefox, which opens up now on my machine under this profile, would be like a freshly installed Firefox. It will have no bookmarks, no settings, no add-ons which were there in the default profile. And that's what Selenium does. When you create the object of Firefox driver, Selenium creates a new it launches Firefox. Okay, but programmatically, internally, it creates a new profile and then it launches the Firefox. All right, fine. Now suppose in this profile, I go to Google and I bookmark the Google site. Okay, so in my, hold on, where is that option? Edit this bookmark. It's not coming under bookmarks. Bookmark, recently bookmarked. Okay, so Google is coming under recently bookmarked section, right? Or I go and install Firebug in this. Okay, I'll go to addons.mozilla and I'll add Firebug in this, or Firepath. Oh, sorry, I installed Firepath. Okay, hold on. I'll also, it was my mistake, I'm sorry. I'll also install Firebug. Okay. Hold on. Right. And you will see the Firebug icon coming over here. So in this Selenium profile, I have installed Firebug, right? And I have put a bookmark. Now, if I write driver equals to new Firefox driver over here, what happens is that, Selenium creates its own profile and launches it. But I want to tell Selenium that please open the profile Selenium underscore PROF which we just created, PROF which we just created now. Right. So hold on. Let me make a new class known as profiling Firefox. This concept is only there in Firefox. Okay. Right. So look, to do that, you'll have to create the object of the class known as profiles ini. When you create the object of this internal class in Selenium, all the profiles which are there on your machine, they are loaded in the memory. Okay, this class you can say it denotes all the Firefox profiles in your PC. Okay, right. From all the profiles, you get the profile name as Selenium underscore PROF and get it in the object known as Firefox profile. Firefox all profiles dot get profile function returns you the object reference of a class known as Firefox profile. This class denotes a Firefox profile. Okay, so you get the profile which you want, fine, and then create the object of Firefox driver. Okay, and pass over this particular profile over here. So what will happen is that when you run this code, the browser which will open, you see that this browser opens, it's got the Firebug, it's got this bookmark, recently bookmark Google. Okay, it will have the history, complete history which we had on this profile. Okay, so this is what we do. Alright, so in gmail.java, when we launch Firefox, we will launch our own profile this way. And when you run this, it will open Mozilla with Firebug and it will work. So this helps a lot because the browser on which script runs, generally you want to investigate that browser. Okay, you just don't want to be like that, right? You have to investigate that browser, so Firebug helps a lot. Fine. So anybody with any questions till now? Okay. Anyone, anything regarding course, regarding whatever I have taught till now? Anybody with any questions? From where did you get the profile name? Look, I had created the profile. Okay, after I close Firefox from file exit, I gave the command Firefox. Hold on. Just a minute. I had given you this command, right? When I had given this command, this window came up and I had created the profile. I had given the profile Selenium underscore PROF, the name. When I was creating it, whatever name you give over here, this would be your profile name. So if you want to open this profile, you just give the name over here in the code. Okay? Right? Akshay, we have a forum in your login. You can post your questions in that forum. Okay. Everybody who had registered, I hope they got the user ID of qtpselenium.com. Okay. You log in, you will be able to see all the videos. Okay. Later on, I'll also give you your batch ID through which you can watch the videos of this particular batch. Right. And these are the two recordings for yesterday. I'll give you the recordings again. I gave it earlier as well. People are again asking me. This is the recording. These are the recordings from yesterday. Okay. Right. So what I told you till now was I came up, I started the concept. I started the class with this concept from interfaces that you can create the object of the interface like this, the reference of the interface and the object of the class implementing the interface. And I told you this way it helps us to dynamically open the browser. Like in Gmail we could dynamically open the browser. I could take Mozilla IE or Chrome and I could dynamically open it, right? And after you read Gmail, I told you how you can identify the objects. We made this matrix. Okay, in this matrix we gave object, we gave tag name, mandatory attributes, optional attributes, and lot of stuff. Okay, and I told you that every object can be categorized with this, right? And basically I told you how to identify directly with name and class, sorry, name and ID. And then I talked about XPaths. Right, XPaths are of two types: partial XPaths and complete XPaths. Fine. You preferably we use partial XPaths. We have tools like Firebug and Firepath which can help you investigate the page source, get out the XPaths and all. And in the end, I talked about the profiling concept, that you can create a Firefox profile, right? And programmatically you can invoke the profile so that we have got Firebug and Firepath and all that stuff in the profile, right? Do we need to create profile for anyone? You have just, Kailash, you have to use the built-in profile, like the profile which you have actually created from here. Okay, firefox.exe command you gave and you created the profile. You can use the same profile. Okay, right. So I think it's more than enough for today. Okay, and I guess around 5 or 6 seats were left. So anybody who's wanting to join in can just contact me on Skype after the class. My Skype ID is qtpselenium1, or you can reach us on email, and